transitions are always scary. We always question the unknown out too. It was a little bit, not fulfilling to me. We're making chewing gum. I come from that industry, the confection industry. So I was thinking, what am I really doing for the planet? And you want to know the real answer I came up with? To me, there's not a lot to lose if you're going to give it a shot, because transitioning should be planned out. It's not something that you just jump and jump again and jump again. Because there's something interesting happens when you see what you're thinking. Your real eyes work very differently than your mind's eye. So they're not looking at it that way. The strategy is not as important as your mindset.
Welcome to today's episode, where I'm joined by Rich Bernstein, CEO of Master Fitness Coaching, to explore how to courageously step out of a soul-draining 9 to 5 into a purpose-filled career. Thank you, Rich, for taking the time to be here.
You're welcome.
Now, Rich, you successfully transitioned from being a business owner of a multi-million-dollar company, then a business coach, into co-founding Mars Fitness Coaching. What inspired these significant transitions, and what fears did you personally face along the way?
I think we all have fears of making any kind of transition, not just in business, but even from corporate to being a business owner, and then a business owner to another business. Those transitions are always scary. We always question the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. What if it doesn't happen? What if it does happen? To me, there's not a lot to lose if you're going to give it a shot, because transitioning should be planned out. It's not something that you just jump and jump again and jump again. I think that the more planning you do and looking at things like SWOT analysis, what's your strength? What's your weakness? What are the opportunities? What might be the threats that could get in your way? The more you do that, the less fear you're going to have. The smaller the baby steps, the less fear you're going to have, because you can't just jump off a cliff and expect things to work, because things don't always turn out the way you want them to. But I think transitioning is always a good thing, because I look at the unknown as something could be adventurous, could be scary, but fun at the same time. Is it really anxiety or is it excitement? So those are the kind of things you kind of have to weigh out. But I think transitioning into a coaching business, as long as your heart is to really want to help people, and you really focus on what does that help look like. If you know clearly what that help looks like, then you're more relaxed in making that transition. If you don't know what it looks like, you don't know what you're going to do. How am I going to get a client? How am I going to coach them? What is the process that I'm going to do? Then it can be even more scary, because you don't really know. I think that's part of it, is the unknown.
And you mentioned something quite important, which many of us may not know. The word SWOT analysis, or the term SWOT analysis. Explain it a little bit in simple terms and what it does, what it helps with.
Well, I think every business have a SWOT analysis, meaning you're looking at SWOT. What are the strengths that that businesses have? What are the weaknesses that that business has? What are the opportunities for the future? And what are the threats that could get in the way? And when I do that for every business that I happen to coach, is I want to see what are their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And many of them we don't see coming, like COVID. I wouldn't have thought that is a threat to a business, but it is. So that, in simple terms, is just really doing a step back analysis. Do that for yourself, not just for the business. That's what makes it a little less scary to make that transition.
And how do you apply that on a personal level?
What are my strengths? What are my strengths? And you want to list them out, not just think about them, because there's something interesting happens when you see what you're thinking. Your real eyes work very differently than your mind's eye. So just thinking about my strengths is very different than sitting down, taking the time. This is what a coach does, is take the time and say, now let's list out all the strengths so you can actually see them. And then let's list out all the weaknesses so you see them. And what are the opportunities? What are the threats that could get in the way? You do that analysis on yourself, not just in thought, but on paper.
So that would help manage
that fear
that they would experience, right?
That fear, correct. Because then you go, okay, I know I'm good at this, so that I can do. Because here's also something interesting. And I don't know why people have no trouble working for somebody else, but they have a lot of trouble working for themselves. If people just work the same hard, the same input that they do for somebody else, they will be successful. They just don't know it. And I remember when I transitioned from a corporate job to my own business, the first thing I was thinking is, wait a minute, I have a relationship with, the stores already to sell my product. Why can't I just use that? And all I have to do is work as hard as I did for them. I used to come in early every day. I stayed late every day. I made more calls every day because I wanted to prove to them how good I am. And then I get in my own business and I'm like, oh, I can sleep till 10. Nobody's holding me accountable. Oh, I can take a 2-hour lunch break. Oh, I don't even need to go back today if I don't want to. If you just work as hard for yourself as you do for others, you will be successful. I'm telling you, because you're already successful in what you're doing for somebody else. And the first thing I thought about when I got in my own business is, wait a minute, if I sell it to a store for them, I get 10%. If I sell it to a store for me, I get 100%. Why would I not work harder for me than for somebody else? So I work for me as an employee of me. You know what? I look at it that way. What time do you want Rich at the office? I want him there at 9 o'clock. Guess what? I'm going to be there at 8:45 for me, right? Even though nobody's holding me accountable. You know who's holding me accountable? My family, my mortgage, my wife, my kids. Everybody's holding me accountable. But for some reason, that is the biggest thing that stops people from transitioning successfully, is being able to have the discipline to work for themselves.
Yeah. I think that is probably one of the things that hold people back, is that, will I succeed? Will I work as hard for myself as I would work for someone else?
If the answer is yes, you will be successful.
And
if
then
the answer is I'm not sure, don't transition.
Yeah. And I like what you said. I like how you said, put yourself, like, look at yourself as an employee of that company, of your company, because you take yourself outside of yourself and go, okay, this is what I need to do. And I guess one way to overcome this fear as well is to actually get a coach, or to get a mentor,
100%.
get you going in that first phase, right?
That's what we do. That's what we do as coaches, is I teach someone how to set up that discipline. So in the morning, if you're doing marketing for your own company, then you're working as a marketer for yourself. That boss is not going to be happy with you at the end of the week. And if you think about it, and I've said this to a lot of coaches that are not successful, I said to them, look, they said, I have a hard time filling my workshop because I don't even know if I'm going to get paid. Now, if I said to you, Helmut, I want you to come to Las Vegas and I'm going to pay you on Friday $50 for every person that gets to my workshop. And I don't care how you do it. You can walk around the building and invite people. You can go out on the street, go networking. But at the end of the day, I want you to get 10 people to come to my workshop throughout the week. You would do that. You would do it without a problem, because you know on Friday you're going to get paid. But I also know on Friday that if I have 10 people in a room at my workshop, I'm going to get paid. Somebody's going to buy my services. Somebody is going to start working with me because I filled it with 10 people. The odds are there. The chances of me selling at least one out of those 10, if not 2 or 3 or 4. So I know I'm going to pay myself. It's the same principle. But you're saying, I'll do it if you give me a check on Friday. No problem, I'll fill the workshop. It's exactly the same thing, but people don't look at it that way.
So it's almost like
nobody comes.
So it's almost like a mindset issue, mindset versus strategy.
100% mindset. Mindset is way more important than strategy. Mindset is way more important than strategy, because I know that if I have 10 in the room, I know if you hired me and said, I'll give you $50 for every person in that room, I will go out and get 10 people for my $500. But I also know that if I did that for myself, I'm going to get more than $500, right? Because somebody's going to buy my full coaching package. They're not looking at it that way. The strategy is not as important as your mindset.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I mean, okay, so let's move into more practical steps and perhaps lessons that you've learned from the past. What's one practical step that someone could take today? Someone who's feeling, corporate fatigue, and who's contemplating of transitioning into coaching. What's a practical step someone could take?
Well, the first thing, and we talked about already, is do a SWOT on yourself. So
Yeah.
think about your strengths. But I think it's important to also visualize what you would be doing. So when I became a coach, the first thing I visualized is if I walk into a business owner, being observant, seeing what's going on in that business. I pictured myself doing that. And then I would take a step back and go, does that feel good to me? Does that feel purposeful? Because even in my own business, when it got to a corporate level, it was a little bit of burnout too. It was a little bit, not fulfilling to me. We're making chewing gum. I come from that industry, the confection industry. So I was thinking, what am I really doing for the planet? And you want to know the real answer I came up with? At least I'm employing people. That's how I tried to justify that I'm doing something positive for the planet, is at least I'm employing, because I had 175 employees. So at least I'm doing something positive. I never really thought about being a coach until I had sold the business and somebody said to me, have you ever thought about business coaching? I'm not kidding. I got goosebumps when I heard that because I thought, wow, that helping people in business, at least I know what not to do. So I can at least teach that. And I took a course on business coaching. I took a really good course and it taught me how to be a business coach, but it was fulfilling even to think about it. That's why I went into it. That transition was easier for me because it felt good because I knew the struggles of being a business owner. And I know it's the loneliest job in the world. I would sit there and go, how am I going to pay payroll? How am I going to do? So, and I couldn't tell my wife, I don't know what I'm doing. Can't tell employees. They would go, why am I working here then? I should go get a different job. So those are the kind of things that I struggled with that I wanted to help business owners with. So you really got to, oh, excuse me. I got my protein shake. Thank you. Thank you. You know what I mean? Is to me, it was very important that that transition felt good to me. So I think visualization is important. Talk to people, verbalize it. Say, what do you think about me being a coach? Or what do you think about me being doing something like this? Because again, if I go back to if you work as hard for them that you did for them for yourself, you will be successful.
Mm.
Guaranteed.
Was that the defining moment for you? The defining moment that prompted you to finally make that leap?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I did a SWOT on myself. I thought about it and I said, you know what? This really makes me feel good.
Mm.
I talked to other people. They said, yep, that's what you should do. I visualized myself doing it. It felt good. And I went and took a course. That's the first step anyway. Take a course because the worst thing that would happen is you learn something and you don't transition, but you start help people around you.
I mean, Martin's coaching emphasizes saving relationships, right? As a very powerful mission. How does aligning with such a deep purpose influence, or how can aligning with such a deep purpose influence a person's success?
You know, it's funny you say that because I think the first step is knowing that purpose, right?
Mhm.
But as humans, as we get involved in our day to day, we forget this purpose. And the biggest thing we can do to stay motivated, to stay in that purpose in front of us, is to have it written out. That's why I think it's important. I do this with a lot of businesses where I print it out and frame it and put it on the wall where they see it frequently. What is that purpose? We want to help 1 million relationships by 2030. That is our focus. That is printed out in my office and I see it on a regular basis. I stop and look at it. I read it again. I go, why is that important to me? Why would that make me feel good? So that's the real key, is keeping it in front of mind. And we as humans don't do that with anything. We just forget why we're doing it because we get wrapped up in the day to day. So the real secret to staying focused on that is having it in front of you.
Now, 1 million relationships, that's fine for relationship coaching, but how does that relate to business coaching or corporate
It's
coaching?
it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. What we're doing is building relationships with our clients, with our customers, with our teams. If I go in and help a business succeed, they don't understand that the business is really about relationships. You have relationships with suppliers, with vendors, your employees are probably your best relationship. And you want to lead them where that relationship, there's not turnover in the business. They love working there. They like, climbing the ladder, getting more and more success, making more money, and they feel aligned with that purpose. That's the first thing I do is anybody who joins Mars Venus, they got to buy into that purpose. If you don't buy into that purpose and it doesn't excite you, you're on the wrong team.
Fair enough. And now for our listeners sitting on the fence, what is the one single most powerful insight that you could offer them about pursuing a meaningful career?
I think you'd have to get to know our people. I think if you talk to some of our team members, if you come on and book a call, talk to our corporate team members and see that we run as a family and that you can be safe here, that this is not an environment where you have to go get clients and do this and reach a certain level of success will make you feel warm and part of a family and knowing exactly what to do every day because you're just following everybody else's success. And then you meet clients and then you meet other coaches and that snowballs into you find a home. So it's not just fulfilling, but you're never alone. Like I said, owning a business is a lonely job. But at Mars Venus, it's not because we work as a family and as a team.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you very much, Richard, for your time. It was a pleasure speaking to you again today.
You're welcome.
Now, for everybody at home, if you found this content valuable, subscribe. If you have any questions regarding the content of conversations we should have with Rich, put that in the comments below. And we do have an interesting quiz for you today. You can find that in the link in the description. It's a Purpose Pathway Archetype quiz. So if you are thinking, if you're in a corporate environment or any environment really, and you're thinking about transitioning, fill in the quiz, figure out what your archetype is. You'll get some really valuable insight from that. And
excellent. Hold on. Cheers, everyone.